All right, so we're here with Rick Coppinger. Rick's running for mayor of the city of Cheyenne. Rick, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Thanks for interviewing with the editorial board.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'll apologize for our two community reps not being in the room at the time, but they will be watching the video later. And so let's just start right off with what specific issues or concerns caused you to run for mayor this year?
I think my biggest concern is that how Cheyenne is doing business. I think that we need to hold contractors that are doing business with Cheyenne specifically more accountable for the work and the type of work that they're doing, accomplishing it on in a timely manner on the contractual date. And the quality of workmanship that they're doing at the same time. All of that's very, very important to me.
Okay. What qualifications do you bring to the table that will help you to serve as mayor?
I have a military background, so I'm trained by the United States Navy to lead men, women, and people to success, but in a teamwork fashion, not on an I basis, but bringing everybody together to the table, coming up with a solution for the problem, and then affecting that solution.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and your work?
I've been in Wyoming a long time. I have worked as a station manager for Great Lakes Airlines, managed the station and helped out in several other stations. I'm a safety council member for Rain for Rent when I worked for them in the oil fields, and a senior team lead, again, bringing teamwork and getting the job accomplished in tough jobs. I'm also a graduate of the Leadership Cheyenne program from the Chamber of Commerce in 2003-2004.
Rick, what do you feel is the biggest challenge facing the city? And once you identify the biggest challenge, can you name a couple of others as well?
I think the biggest challenge facing Cheyenne right now is their tax base. We've had the same population for the longest period of time, and though it's growing in small numbers, we want more projects done, but we still only have the same amount of people to pay the same amount of taxes, which is fine. We don't need to grow population, but we do need to bring people in. Like I said earlier, we have 4.3 million people in the Front Range. That's all the way to Pueblo, Colorado. If you shorten that distance up to Denver, even Fort Collins, we still have a large base that we can bring people in, bring entertainment in, bring something in that draws those people here and let them help pay our taxes through hotel fees, through sales in our restaurants in our downtown area. It would provide us the money we need to be able to do the things that we want and still have overages left over for backing up other programs.
Name another challenge.
Another challenge that I see that Cheyenne has is doing business the same way it's always done with no change. We need to affect some change here in Cheyenne that holds all of the government accountable. If you say something you're going to do, then do it. And the people have the right to hold you accountable for it. And I see that as a huge problem. I don't see that as something that's happened. I hate to use the word transparent because it's been overused, but I think that's what we need, something more transparent, where there are more, the mayor is more a part of the people out visiting, seeing what's going on, holding those town hall meetings.
Rick, please describe your vision for Cheyenne.
My vision for Cheyenne. I like Cheyenne basically really the way it is. The people are wonderful. They're very kind. They're very helpful. And when there's a need, people just jump up and dive right in. My vision of Cheyenne is being able to utilize what we have to a greater extent, using our airport, for instance, bringing more people in by using the airport that we have, providing a new terminal to bring passengers in safely and comfortably and securely. Taking our downtown area, making it a place of gathering where people go and you can see your family, you can see your friends, and you can have entertainment and a good time. And bringing back the center of Cheyenne down there. The other areas are just as important also. So making sure that all four quadrants of Cheyenne grow equally and are provided equal.
As part of that vision, what do you think the community needs that it doesn't have, and how would you, as mayor, make that happen?
The community needs to look at other avenues. You know, there's a big thing that people say that there's never anything to do in Cheyenne. And I don't know that it's a case that there's never anything to do in Cheyenne. There's not enough variety of things to do in Cheyenne for everybody. It's great to have the benefits and so forth, and people like to attend those things, but there should be other drawing cards, things that make me want to go see those types of things as well. Or something that isn't as costly, because not everybody can afford the more expensive items. So we need to be able to provide a more diverse things to do, I guess, in Cheyenne.
How does the mayor make that happen?
I think by providing the rec centers or finding a way to provide the rec center and putting it in a place that is not more centrally located, I guess would be the correct words for that. A rec center should be located where everybody can access it. It should be priced so that everybody can access it. It should provide activities that allow men, women, children, something to do and a place to gather. There's nothing like a child that's been well mentored. And by having a rec center, you have that diverse crowd. You have that older person taking the younger person by the hand and teaching them just a little bit more about something maybe they didn't know about, just touching that life. And that's what the mayor can do. The mayor can bring those types of things into play. But the mayor can also go out and be a part of the community, not so recluse. Go out, visit with the students, go out, visit with the older population, go out, visit Cheyenne, see what's going on. The same with the employees of the city. What's going on? Touch base with them. You know, what can we do? What can't we do? You can't be all things to all people, but you can sure let them know that you care about them.
Great. You mentioned a little bit some of your supervisory or management experience. How do you feel that, if you want to expand on any of that experience, but how do you feel that would apply to you serving as mayor?
I have an inept ability to draw people together, to make them want to excel, to be better than they are, to open their mind up to think outside the box, because more often than not, the inside the box is already full. So by being able to create a team, everybody sitting down in the same place and coming up with ideas, you more often than not come up with a solution that is a win-win for everybody, not just one person. And in all of my positions, whether it be the airlines, the oil field, the military, it was teamwork that was able to make that happen, not myself. I just had the ability to bring the people together to the table to show them how to get that team to work.
Have you supervised people in your positions?
I have supervised many of people as a manager in the airlines. I manage the employees there, but you also manage the customers. It's not just a case of managing employees. It's the persons that you speak to over the counter, or that you're helping to get to Denver on an airplane, or that customer that you're working with in the oil field to come up with a solution that maybe they hadn't thought of on how to get a project completed in an expedient period of time and give them more than they expected for less than they expected to pay.
You mentioned the airline again, and you mentioned the airport terminal a few minutes ago. I wanted to follow up on Your possible solution for improving air service in Cheyenne. You've got a unique perspective on that. What do you think? You said it's important for Cheyenne to have a viable airport.
I believe that competition breeds good business. We have Great Lakes, which is a phenomenal airline. They make one stop in Denver, which is fine. But I believe that bringing in another small carrier to take us to other places, to give persons a choice to come here to Cheyenne for conventions and so forth, but provide them a terminal that is clean, neat, up to date, and secure. And my biggest thing is secure. We have a wonderful TSA group. I've worked with them for several years, and they do a great job with what they have. Give them a little bit better terminal. Your passengers are more happy. Your employees are happier, and more airlines will want to come here eventually. We were a mecca for a while. There's no reason we can't be again.
Just curious about that. How would you work to improve the building development process in Cheyenne?
I spent last week driving around Cheyenne, and I noticed that there are a lot of buildings that need condemned, for lack of better words, without going inside. To the best of my knowledge, we don't have a code in place that allows us to, in the housing developments, property that is dilapidated, of holding that person that owns that home accountable for that property if they don't live in it or they do live in it. I think we need to build an ordinance that will hold property owners accountable for their property for the way it looks. Used cars, lots of bikes, whatever the case may be. There's no reason to have a dump site in your front yard or your backyard. We should be able to hold people accountable for that.
There have been some criticism of the city's building and development departments, things like city inspectors continuing to come in and add or force changes on projects after the plans have already been approved or a building's been built or renovated. How, as mayor, would you address that issue?
I think you need to first sit down with the contractors in general and hear what their complaints are, and all of them at the same time, so that it's one story and everybody gets a chance to hear that story. And then do the same thing with the inspectors. Sit down with the inspectors and see what hear what they're seeing, and then negotiate what ordinances need to be changed and corrected.
Rick, if you'll talk a little bit about the future of downtown. There are proposals for the downtown core. There's a West Edge project that's moving along. What are your priorities for those two areas? And if some extra funding came along, how would you use that?
Oh my goodness. I would love to see downtown come to fruition. There's a lot of people that are working on it that have just fabulous ideas, but it's making them work. And again, it's encouraging these entrepreneurs, the young ones, the old ones alike, to be able to move downtown, to open up businesses and shops that will make it a fun place to go and visit, and draw in a certain amount of sales tax dollars at the same time as doing it. But you have to encourage entrepreneurs to want to do that. I would love to see downtown Cheyenne be like it was when Cheyenne first started growing. I mean, that was the center and the heart of Cheyenne. It still needs to be that way. The West Edge project, it needs to be funded just as well. But everything has to be done in priorities. And without seeing those priorities, exactly what they intend and what they want to do, I couldn't actually speak to that on an honest basis.
You mentioned bringing in new businesses. How does the mayor help facilitate that?
It's kind of part of a sales job. You know, you have to tell people about your city and why it's so important for them to move here. Cheyenne is crossroads of America. We have a highway that goes from Canada to Mexico, from San Francisco to New Jersey. We have railroad tracks that go east and west, north and south. We need to show companies why it's important to be here, not only because we're inexpensive, our property, our taxes, but because we can get you where you want to go in an expedient period of time and quickly, and give you access to everything, to railroads, to trucking. We have everything anybody needs. The same with the airlines. If you look in the skies, we're the crossroads of America. You see airplanes going north and south, east and west every day. We are ideally the center of America. That's why they came here. That's why they built the railroad here. We are the perfect location. That's the mayor's job. Tell people these things. Let them see the excitement in that person's eyes. If you're not excited about where you live and what you have, then why be there?
Rick, how do you feel about the use of taxpayer money for amenities like the Children's Museum?
That is a debate within myself I have a tough time with. There are so many people out there that would donate to build the Children's Museum that I don't know that the taxpayers' dollars are warranted. I think it just needs to be funded by the people. I mean by, what's the word I'm looking for? My gosh, I'm at a loss of words. I don't have the word I'm looking for. If at last point we don't have enough money to build the Children's Museum, then yes, bring in tax dollars to help along with that. But funding elsewhere. There are enough people in Cheyenne that believe in that program that would be able to help fund that without using taxpayer dollars. But if need be, the Children's Museum, a great curator, we can keep people's lives or children's lives excited about what's going on. Again, it's all right there inside the museum.
Do you think this is a situation of people just haven't been asked the right way, or?
Exactly, not asked the correct way. It's kind of not a complete scheme. I mean, yeah, you want to have a children's museum, but what's in the museum? What are you going to provide the children? And why am I giving you money for this program? I can't buy a label.
How do you feel about development of the city-owned Belvoir Ranch? There's been some talk about trying to open up recreational access, get some trails out there, and let the public use that and the Big Hole properties. How do you feel about that? Where does that fit in your priorities?
I've read a little bit about the Belvoir Ranch. I think we need to make sure that TCE is not a big issue out there, that we're not putting people's lives at risk. Just from what I've been sent and the information that I've read on it, we're not using that property for anything else, and we have it under our hand and we're paying for it. So if giving the public a chance to go out there and have bicycle trails and have ecological studies for them to go to and help, again, encourage education, that would be fine. But let's make sure that we're not putting people's lives at risk while we're doing that. That should be first.
Is it a funding priority for you?
Not on my top 10 list of funding, no.
Leads right into the next question, which is about budget and savings priorities for the city. How do you feel, Rick, about the way the city spends its money? What are your priorities for spending versus savings?
I would like to have the ability to go look at what each person is, what each department has in their budget. And then how is that budget broke down so that we can find the fat and trim that fat off, and use that funding elsewhere. Why are we taking $1.6 million from the sanitation department and putting it in the general budget? Why do they have that excess of money to be able to do that with? Look inside of each budget, make sure that they're using it efficiently and effectively, and make sure that they have the staffing and what needed to be able to do their job and do everything correctly, to their ability.
Do you think the city should be saving more, or is the reserve?
I think right now I think you always need to save because you just never know what the future holds. But without actually seeing each independent budget, it's hard to say where can you trim and where can you move.
So you need more information.
More information, no robbing Peter to pay Paul. Let's just come up with a solution for each budget. Everybody knows what they need to spend. And so let's go look at that. Let's see how can we make your department a little more efficient without cutting anybody's nose off to spite their face.
We're going to have another sixth penny vote, looks like, coming up in May of next year. What would your priority list look like for projects, city projects, for that sixth penny ballot?
First would be infrastructure, giving roads, streets, and lights that were functional and in places that are beneficial to the public. Lights, stop signs in places that promote safety and help. There's a lot of places that I've seen that don't have lights that could certainly use them. So I think infrastructure would be first, and then build out from there. New equipment for those departments that need the new equipment. The police department, try to find a happy medium for them where they're staffed correctly, given the correct equipment to be able to do the job effectively. And then the fire department, the same thing with them. Make sure that they have everything that they need and quarters to live in that are healthy.
Any other projects, amenities, anything that you think ought to be on that ballot?
Not that I can think of.
How do you feel about a possible anti-discrimination ordinance that the city council might pass? Is that appropriate? Is that needed? Is it something you would support?
I'm always against anti-discrimination. I don't discriminate against anybody, but I don't know that I need a law to tell me not to discriminate. I think that's just education.
I'm not sure if you're aware that there's some general fund and fifth penny money that the city uses to fund nonprofits. They give that to the United Way then distributes it. How do you feel about that process?
I'm fine with that because it goes back into the community.
So you want to see that continue?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would not want to see that stop.
And the landfill expansion looks like it's going to happen out at the Happy Jack facility.
Correct.
How do you feel about how they've gotten to that point, the increase in trash fees and the plan to continue that? Long-term, any ideas about how to deal with that situation?
There's been a lot good in building up to this as far as the landfill. It's been a project for a long period of time. And I know that the cost of fuel has gone down so that the sanitation department is not paying as much for their fuel. I don't know that increasing sanitation fees is going to be beneficial to the community. But if that's what it's going to take to get us where we need to be for landfill, I'm all for it.
Do you feel that needs to increase, or do you think there are other funding sources to pay for the landfill expansion? I
think we can trim, again, going through other people's budgets and seeing what's out there. We've taken $1.6 million out of the sanitation department for quite some time. So obviously there's some money in there somewhere that they've been able to take and put it elsewhere into the general funding. Without looking further into what the sanitation's budget looks like, I would hesitate to say.
And do you have any ideas about adding amenities for families or young professionals to make them interested in being here or staying here?
I think by increasing the downtown area, by increasing our awareness outside of Cheyenne in other towns and cities, that would be beneficial. Providing entertainment, a broader perspective. Again, talk to more people, find out what is it that you want to see. The rec center would be a big calling card. A lot of people in a lot of larger cities than ours use the rec center, and it's from all walks of life.
I want to go back to the budget for just a minute. There's, have you weigh in on the budget process. What do you know about the budget process now, and how would you change it if you would change it?
I know very little and would not be able to actually speak to that budget process.
Right now, the tendency has been for the mayor to create the budget, provide it to the council, and then the council deliberates it. Does that sound like the right process with it, or is there something?
I think there needs to be more to it. I think the city council as well as the mayor. The city council is the spokesperson for each different ward, and they know a little bit about what's going on in their ward and what those people want. So with everybody sitting down and coming up with a budget, it is a little more open to the people and a little bit better spread out amongst each ward.
Well, Rick, I think that's covered most of the topics that we wanted to cover. Do you have other things that you'd like to mention that we didn't cover today?
No, I really can't think of anything. I'm just a very humble person. This is my hometown. For what I know of a hometown, Cheyenne deserves the best. I want to see that it grows the best. I'd like to see the people have more say-so in what actually goes on inside their town and how it goes on inside their town. As mayor, I'd spend a lot of time talking with the people just to make sure that we had an open ear and an open door to what they want and need. Can we always provide it? No. But do we care? Yes.
Well, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate your time
Thank you
today.
very much.
Thanks for coming in.